It's time once again for another episode of Georgia Business Radio. Broadcasting live from the ProBusiness Channel studios in Atlanta. And now here's your host, Rich Casanova.
All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us for another episode of Georgia Business Radio. I'm your host, Rich Casanova. Also joining us in the studio, Michael Moore and Artie Ruderman. And we have our special guest here from the city of Alpharetta. Today, it's you've heard of ATL. This is all things Alpharetta ATA. All right, so everything Alpharetta is going to be covered here today. And we also have guests in the studio from Media Frenzy Global. They're a PR firm for the city of Alpharetta, so excited. Big shout out to those folks. And let's get right into it. So we're going to, if you're tuning in, we're going to do three kind of 10-minute segments. So we're talking about today, what's going on currently, introduce our guests with their bio, and we're talking about trends and what's the outlook for tomorrow for the city of Alpharetta. So Peter Tokar, welcome to the show. You're the Alpharetta Department of Economic Development Officer, Commander, Guru. What? How do you finish off? Okay, yes. All of that. Yeah,
many hats.
All right,
multiple
nice.
hat wearer.
And we're talking a little bit of your background before you took on this role. But first, before we get into that, a little bit of your history, your personal story before we talk business.
Absolutely. So I came up to the Atlanta area, specifically to Alpharetta. From South Florida. I was in the Miami Fort Lauderdale for 14 years.
I saw that. Born and raised in Miami. So I saw that.
No,
I was.
Oh,
yeah,
you are? Okay,
yeah.
I was going to say, I would never claim that.
I know. I left when I was 13 months old, actually. Yeah.
Good choice.
Dang. Shout out to our Miami fans.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Threw them under the bus real quick. Yeah.
It's just too hot.
Yeah, it is.
For me, at least. My parents love it. They still live down there. We visit frequently. And now I like going to South Florida because it's a great place to go visit.
You get to come home
Absolutely.
to Alpharetta.
The leaving part is the best part.
I heard a comedian say one time, why do they sell all-season radial tires in Florida when there's only one season?
Right.
All right. So prior to this role, you were also involved in an incubator in Alpharetta as well, right?
Partially, yes. So part of the role that I was tasked with coming to Alpharetta was looking at the technology landscape and how do we build and support that from a city perspective and from a public investment perspective. Right. And one of the ways we did that was by creating the Alpharetta Technology Commission, which turned into a strategic planning think tank for the city because we did one thing right as a government entity. We said, instead of us sitting around figuring out how technology works and how to make it work, why don't we just ask the technology businesses?
Right, yeah.
Like, what a novel idea. So we invited tech CEOs to come and sit on the Strategic Planning Council to advise the city on what are we doing right in technology. Well, we identified that we have this massive amount of technology companies within the city, over 600. And we sought to find out, well, why? Why do they come here? What is it about Alpharetta that was the draw for all these technology companies? And they let us know. They said, well, these are X, Y, and Z of why we came here. These are the reasons why we stay here. These are the things that we really think you could improve on. And one of those things was, we need a more supportive innovation ecosystem in Alpharetta. We have a lot of great tech companies up here. There's a lot of great startups that are actually up here as well that are all having to go downtown because we don't have an innovation center. We don't have that ecosystem to support entrepreneurship in Alpharetta. So that was the task that came back to us and we answered the call. It took about 2 years to do, but about 2 years later, we had our first innovation center up and running to support entrepreneurship and innovation.
And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but fairly unique as city partnership, right?
Yes, correct. Most of the co-working, innovation, entrepreneurship, incubators, whatever you want to call them, outside of the oldest and the most successful in the country, ATDC downtown Atlanta, are all private run.
Right.
Great success story with David Cummings with Atlantic Tech Village, but again, privately run.
Right. Yeah.
So this was pretty unique in that we're actually repurposed an old government building that we had as part of our new city center development up in Alpharetta. We had an off-site office for our finance department that was no longer being utilized. Right. I lobbied city council, said, hey, can we use that for an innovation center? They said, sure. Wow. And it's about modest start, about 8,800 square feet. But out of that, the innovation center has been open for roughly about 2 years now, and we're already on our fifth graduated startup out of the center. So we've had a great amount of success in a small time.
Definitely shout out to those guys. And we're going to talk tech in our next segment here in just a minute. But all three of us actually, as hosts in the studio, attended the Million Cup event that they host there on Wednesday, which is pretty amazing. The Kauffman Foundation. And then also they do a startup group on Friday mornings, as I understand as well.
Yes.
So let's switch gears a little bit. We're on the ProBusiness Channel Network. So talk to us about what makes Alpharetta a pro-business city or community.
When I started in Alpharetta in 2012, I was the first economic development director for the first ever economic development department for the city. Wow. So,
I was going to say,
I got to do the fun thing of building my department from scratch. And one of the things that I guess brought me to Alpharetta was I had done the same thing for a municipality down in South Florida. So I had that experience of building a successfully run economic development program. So it was really easy to kind of replicate a lot of the same elements, but utilize a lot of the different landscape that Alpharetta had as opposed to the other place. So that alone is a giant step for a city to be business friendly, is to have an economic development department. Cities that don't have economic development departments, yes, they can still be successful, but you're not going to have that concerted effort to support the business community, to support the business ecosystem within the city. And that comes in much more ways than just recruiting businesses. Economic development is a huge buzzword in the country right now. The president loves to say it, both past and present. And a lot of people really don't understand what it really involves. It's a lot more than just seeking out new businesses to a location. It's about supporting the existing industry as well.
And once they have arrived, give them the infrastructure and the continuity to grow their business in that area, not just land that. A lot of business people or salespeople do talk about, always be closing. But I heard a speaker say it's more about opening new business. And if you have that mindset that you're opening a new account rather than closing a deal, right? That speaks to you're thinking bigger than just a one-off, right?
Correct.
We have a couple more minutes in this segment here, so talk to us about. Drop some names if you want, but I know you're not wearing the hat of the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau, but we have a resident here in the studio, and I've been up there a number of times and enjoy their farmers market. Talk to us about the community environment, because again, we're going to talk business and tech in our next segment here, but also talk about maybe the accomplishments in the last 5 years. Avalon has been phenomenal. We had Mark Toro from North American Properties here in the studio, but talk to us about some of those outside of that business climate environment that really builds that community.
Well, yeah, and again, that's another key element of the economic development department is that community support system and the livability of the community. And so we've made significant investments as a city in the community as well for both business residents and residents, permanent residents that live there during all the time. And that came in the form of, yes, the Avalon redevelopment has been an amazing transformation for the city. Took that old 60 plus acre site that was a failed development in the past, made it to this amazing fiberhood, Georgia's first fiberhood.
Right, yeah, it was a trip.
Has the connected living, but also with our downtown development, we're adding in all these community walking trails, the Alpharetta Loop system, which is pretty much Alpharetta's version of the Beltline downtown that allows for easy access to all of our pedestrian walking trails, our downtown city center developments, Avalon development, Zagster rental bike systems so that you can easily get around and enjoy the restaurants, retails, boutiques. It's really made downtown Alpharetta a meeting point for the community, which is something that we desperately needed. And it's all about supporting those community elements as well as the business elements that makes it a place that people want to stay, not just want to go and work. That was one of the issues that plagued Alpharetta was we had these great businesses that over 85,000 people were commuting in every day to work at. But we had only around 60,000 permanent residents in the city. And of those 60,000 residents, downtown Alpharetta was pretty much dark by 9 o'clock at night.
I think they call it rolling up the sidewalks. This is Michael Moore. Peter, it's just phenomenal to think about the trends that are going on in Alpharetta. And as Rich said earlier, this is all things Alpharetta Day. So, we're here today with the economic development king of Alpharetta. He got to start the project from start. So being a pioneer to go out and do the special things you've been doing, we are really blessed to have a city like Alpharetta and forward-thinking leadership, of course, council members. As you said, 60,000 residents sleep there. And then you have about how many come in every day?
Right now, the numbers are about 90,000 people commute into Alpharetta.
90,000. So you actually grow by over 100% during the working hours a day. Well, that's great because I know we've got, as we said, we've got one of our residents right here in the town. I think he lives 1 block off of Main Street. And so let's talk about that growth and that live-work environment, that community environment, and what makes Alpharetta just very special. And what are the trends? You said the new community center. You talked about the restaurants. I want to focus a little bit later on the fact that the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Business Association, the media that you've been getting, the media attention is certainly well-founded. So talk some about those things.
Well, a lot of trends that we're seeing, especially in what is actually surprising as historically within economic development that was never high on the list, was a community's walkability score. So looking at what site selectors are looking at these days in communities, and one of the valuations that both companies and quite frankly the workforce is looking at in a place to locate both themselves and their business is, how walkable is a community? Do you have those community assets that you can have a good quality of life while having a good job as well? And we recognize that, which is why we did our public bond issuance of $30 million to reinvest in our downtown environment in Alpharetta. In the form of our city center development, and that incorporated park space development, and incorporated widening all the sidewalks, adding outdoor dining options for all of our downtown restaurants and boutiques. We actually have invested in some programs for our downtown businesses and citywide businesses that utilizing a lot of the latest technology like location beacon technology, and we're exploring virtual reality and augmented reality applications.
We're at science fiction now. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. I got to interject. About 40 years ago, I remember that was horse farm country up there. Now, I do not want to see one of my neighborhood horses walking around with virtual reality. So let's talk about what we're doing in the youth environment, what's happening in the schools, what's happening in the terms of education. What are some of the things that you're looking to make the next generation? Because we all joke about the millennials, but in reality, the millennials are already getting what they deserve. They're getting a better environment in Alpharetta. So what about the coming up youth? What's going on out there in the marketplace for you?
Well, as people may not know, but the Fulton County school system has dedicated that. We have the old Independence High School, which is closed down in downtown Alpharetta, and they have already labeled that as they're going to build that as the next STEM campus. So it's going to be a magnet school for STEM for educating our youth up in Alpharetta. And that's going to be a game changer for all of North Fulton because we recognize that the kids growing up are the future workforce, and we want them to have the best opportunities that they have for having success in the workforce in the future, which our workforce is being dominated by technology. So having a STEM campus dedicated to that is really a game changer, and I think we're going to see more schools having a renewed focus on STEM in the future. We already have an amazing school system that serves the Alpharetta community. We tap into all of those resources from K through 12. And then also from an economic development perspective, it was an interesting story. And we have more information. It's a pretty long story, but we have more information on our website. You can look at it. But we actually ran a program with one of our charter schools, Amana Academy, in Alpharetta to bring kids coding into an actual curriculum for the children. And it was a city-sponsored initiative utilizing it was actually a Kickstarter campaign called the Kano Computer that teaches kids how to code by coding games. And so we thought that was a great idea. We worked with the company Kano. We partnered them with the teachers and developers at Amana Academy to develop a curriculum that is now 2 years running at the school, and was a great success story for both Amana, and it's a great program for the entire. It's run through the entire fourth grade in at Amana Academy.
Yeah, we have fourth graders learning to program new games. That sounds exciting.
Yeah,
so that goes back to the community itself and how you are working with the businesses and you're integrating the businesses. Talk about some of those people who are coming to Alpharetta to really make a world for their kids and make a world for their families. And I know one of the things that you talked about with Avalon's development and the developments around it, we're seeing a lot of senior properties being developed. So talk about those trends in the demographics of Alpharetta over the last 5 years, 10 years.
So the demographics of Alpharetta, we've always been a great place for executive housing, but one of the things that we're areas where we're really growing is in our young families. So we've made an investment as a community as well to look at opportunities to build that midpoint, price point, house point. We're building, I think 1,400 townhouses under construction, and we're seeing an influx of young families come in because as I see the Metro Atlanta landscape, I think we have a perfect feeder system that Alpharetta feeds into. I don't think a lot of the regional efforts have seen it yet, but I'm trying to push it as much as I can. In that, if you're a fresh grad out of tech and you're eager to get into the tech community, we have great businesses, great opportunities in downtown that you can get into. And then as you get older, as the millennials age, as we apparently do, and grow up. And
you're looking back over your shoulder. You look at those old people behind you. What's the deal here?
And realize that, hey, we want to stay involved in tech. We want to start families. We want to have a great quality of life. Then you have places like Alpharetta. So, our median age has maintained right around 37. And that puts it right in that sweet spot of the aging, we'll call it the aging millennial that has gotten married.
Maturing
that is looking for a great community that has a tech community. It has great community assets. Our parks and our rec system is second to none. All of the community amenities that we're building, whether it be the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater, all the festivals we're launching downtown, the city center development, Avalon development, we're adding in all of these great community assets that appeal to that generation.
Well, and let's focus on that just for a minute. I know that we, in the Georgia Technical College system, you folks have scored a big major opportunity in the last few years when you brought a tech school right into your city. So talk a little bit about that grand opening and what kind of results you're seeing and what do you expect that trend to be in terms of available tech folks. And then we'll wrap up with a comment about your Million Cups and the maturing companies. So talk about the tech school coming to town.
The Gwinnett Technical College locating their North Fulton campus in Alpharetta was a huge win for the city. And we put a lot of effort into that because we recognize that having a technical college system available to our community was an invaluable asset. And so we put up a pretty good fight and and a pretty good offering on the table to get them there. And that
I think having Gwinnett Tech in Fulton, North Fulton, that was pretty good within itself,
Yeah. You
didn't lobby for a name change. I think I'd added one more part now. I know you're seeing a lot of graduates and you're seeing a lot of opportunity for people to stay in the community and get that technical education, but you did a couple of things that I think the audience might want to know. You actually changed the traffic patterns there around the school to accommodate, because we all know that Avalon, being just across the street, would be a tremendous traffic item at all hours of the day, but you actually restructured the streets behind it. And then also talk about new bridges going over 400. You've actually used your technology to change traffic patterns out there, which I think is important.
Yeah, there are actually two major road infrastructure projects that are really improving everything. One with first of all, the West Side Parkway extension to actually allow Avalon to happen. One of the things that was crucially needed for the Avalon development to happen was to connect West Side Parkway basically from Windward to Old Mountain Parkway. So that providing that connection was a huge asset. And then now the Northwinds extension that is adjacent to Gwinnett Technical College provides that connectivity to relieve some of that traffic pressure as well. So in the Encore Bridge project is an amazing bridge. That's part of our loop system. That pedestrian trail system, and that is a huge thanks to the Alpharetta or the North Fulton Community Improvement District who helped fund that project. But that is a prime example of investments we're making to improve transportation, improve walkability, and improve access around the town to our different areas.
Well, now you mentioned websites a couple of times and information online. I know we have your PR representative here at the table with us today, but let's just kind of rattle down, Peter, if you don't mind, a couple of those websites where people can get more information.
Yeah, our main economic development website is growalpharetta.com. And there you will find a complete comprehensive information about all the stats, figures, facts about Alpharetta, all the downloadables,
that keeps you busy, just keep
metrics.
Nothing up to date.
We update that every 3 months with the latest demographic information. So, and then you'll find all of our business assistance programs. That's more of our traditional economic development site. But one of the really exciting websites we launched last year is Alpharetta360.com. And as economic developers, we are charged, and by nature, we say everything that is great about our community because that's what we're essentially paid to do. But 360 is not our words; it's the community's words.
Right.
So Alpharetta 360 is no facts, no figures. It's all 60 to 90 second videos about Alpharetta. We've taken those economic development principles and put them into videos. So we have a multitude of businesses in Alpharetta, their CEOs giving their testimonial on why they chose Alpharetta as a business destination.
And that's where I want to go next. As you talk about the leadership, I know you're very blessed with the Chamber of Commerce. You're very blessed with the media. You've got a business association. You've got a Chamber of Commerce right there in your city. You've got state elected officials that are serving and very active. You've got CEOs that are vested and actually live there within your city limits. It's just amazing. So with that, Peter, I'm going to turn it over to Artie, who's going to take you into the future. And I know you're already there. So Artie, let's say yours.
Hello, welcome to the Georgia Business Radio Show. I'm your host, Artie Ruderman, and today we're talking with Peter Tokar, Economic Development Director of Alpharetta. And I am a professional business developer, and I usually work in the realm of B2B. So G2B, government to business, is rather new to me, and I'm rather fascinated by it. So I'm looking at 5 to 20 years out, and I'm looking at the title right now for Alpharetta is the Technology City of the South, with over 600 technology companies. And I was just wondering what the reach out would be to other industries, how real estate, residential, commercial, will change in the next 5 to 20 years, and how the city of Alpharetta is addressing that. And the population demographics is very interesting. I think I heard earlier mentioned the average age is about 37. I think about 50% of the residents of Alpharetta are between 30 and 50 years old. And as the population ages, how is the city going to plan for that? Traffic is another thing to consider, and right now it has been addressed very well. And what is the future of retail in Alpharetta?
Well, which one would you like to start on?
You can pick either, but let's start with the technology. Explain the technology city of the South and why that's important, and then address reaching out to other industries.
Well, the technology city of the South was basically came up by just identifying that we're basically the hub of technology for the Metro Atlanta region. We hold the majority of the technology companies that make up the Metro Atlanta region's tech presence. It may not be the biggest names that are in Metro Atlanta, but from a volume perspective, we certainly have that cornered. So that was actually a tagline that came up through Mayor Belle-Isle. He identified that, and so we credit him with coining us the technology city of the South. But when we're talking about being a technology city, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of our businesses are tech focused. Technology is every business now. Every business utilizes technology. So whether we're talking about a corporate headquarter location or a cybersecurity firm, pretty much all business is technology these days. So where the future of the technology city of the South is that we are a city that is going to continue to focus on traditional technology companies, but we're not limited to technology companies, and we only see that the technology companies that we do have in the city can service a multitude of different industries and provide partnerships and opportunities for pretty much all business.
And another aspect of G2B is I never considered that Alpharetta, like all other cities, not just in Georgia, but nationally, are really fighting for business and to attract business. So tell me a little bit what Alpharetta is doing on that end.
Well, one of the interesting factors in that is more so than business, all cities are fighting for talent. Because we've moved from an age where a business locates in a city and people flock to it, to businesses are flocking to where workforce lives. And so a lot of our goal in recruiting and keeping Alpharetta relevant is again, going back to that community element, changing the community so that it is attractive to the workforce, which then the companies flock to the workforce rather than vice versa. So maintaining relevant within the workforce space is really a key priority. And that again goes back to the importance of having a Gwinnett Technical College in the city that is providing that advanced technology and is providing that workforce training to keep the workforce relevant to our community. And working with the startup and innovation initiatives as well to bring in that fresh talent, to bring in the startup companies to create that almost feeding pool of companies and of innovation and of workforce to keep the big companies around.
I'm going to ask you to look into a crystal ball, and we're going to talk about real estate, residential and commercial. And where do you see them going and or growing?
Well, from a commercial real estate perspective, we can't get enough right now. I'm begging commercial developers, if any are listening, please come and build in Alpharetta. We're out of space. We've filled over 3.5 million square feet of Class A office space over the last 5 years. And one of the biggest hindrances to us growing our business community is we're out of space. If you look at, everyone has said that, speculative building isn't a good idea right now. However, Hines and Cousins took a chance and built that 220,000 square foot speculative office building at Avalon, and it's not even done yet, and it's 95% committed. So we obviously have a market for it. We need more of it. I think given the reputation Alpharetta has, given the companies we have, given the infrastructure that we have, which is a key component to why we drew so many companies in the first place, I think that we're not going to have a problem filling it in the near future. Past that, who knows? But for the near future, we could certainly use more of it. From the residential side, again, I mentioned we have over 1,400 townhouses under construction right now. We just approved another mixed-use development off of Haynes Bridge that will bring in probably around 350 to 400 more apartments. So we're getting those developments in that are meeting the need for workforce housing, for younger millennial housing. It takes time to build it. So we're building it as fast as we can, and hopefully that means that people will come.
How many households are in Alpharetta currently, and what is the projection 5 and 20 years out?
I'm not really sure right offhand of how many households we have. I know our population is actually right around 63,000, but we're seeing a great influx of younger families, and of that 1,400 townhouses that are under construction, I would venture to say they're selling as quickly as they can build them. So, and I guarantee that information is probably on our website, but I'm sorry.
I think that's
I've got about 2 million facts and figures floating in my head, and that's the one.
www.growalpharetta.com. I guarantee you'll find that site there. Yes. Information.
I'm sure. I didn't mean to stump you on that. And talking about growth, traffic, which has been addressed, but moving forward, because it is a growing population, and you do have the 100,000 people coming to work here. So what future plans are there for traffic?
Well, the traffic problem is really easy, in my opinion, to solve. Everyone who works in Alpharetta just needs to live in Alpharetta.
Stay in Alpharetta.
There you go. No more traffic.
What goes to Alpharetta stays there.
There you go.
You just walked it.
No, but traffic is definitely an issue. It's one of those things that I don't have a magic wand for that. I think we have some great initiatives that are being looked at to solve our traffic issues, but as long as people are still wanting to commute, you're going to have traffic. I think a really interesting concept for traffic is looking at what's going to happen in the next few years with this automated vehicles and self-driving cars, and how that could potentially. I've heard two sides of the story. I've heard ways that can actually increase traffic. I've heard ways that it can actually decrease traffic. You think, oh, well, if the car drives itself, you have a more optimized road. But a guy we were having a drink and talking about that, and he was saying, well, what happens when the guy has a car drive himself to work and then puts it on Uber mode and is driving around the city all day doing Uber?
Well, this was fascinating. I had lived in Alpharetta and left in 2007, came back in 2016, and was amazed at the growth. So, job well done. And if people want to know more about Alpharetta, can you tell them where they can find that information?
Absolutely. Again, growalpharetta.com, and for more community-oriented stuff, alpharetta360.com. But also you can subscribe to our Twitter feed at Grow Alpharetta. We do regular updates, probably 4, 5, 8, 10, 12 tweets a day on everything that's going around on Alpharetta. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Grow Alpharetta, as well, to get all of those videos in your inbox every 2 weeks.
Well, I thank you. Once again, this is Georgia Business Radio. I'm your host, Artie Ruderman, and we were talking with Peter Tokar, Economic Development Director of Alpharetta. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining Rich Casanova and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show.